Hi, everyone. I'm Meredith Albertson, VP of Marketing at Tealium, and I am really excited to welcome you to this panel today. As marketing and data professionals, we have been faced with some of the most challenging times in our careers over the past few months. But in all honesty, times of change and changes of different types and sizes can really happen at any time. And as you heard in our earlier session with Tealium CMO Heidi Bullock, we're entering into a new time of dynamic marketing. So in today's panel discussion, we are going to discuss how you, your teams, and your company can stay agile, prepared, innovative, and dynamic in all of these times of change. I'd like to take a few minutes to introduce our amazing panelists. I'm so excited to have them here today. First, I'd like to introduce Eric Guy. He is the Senior Director of Global Data Analytics, Customer Research, and Insights at Robert Half Staffing.
Hi, guys. Many of you know Robert Half. We're a $6 billion global services company, and we're focused on professional staffing and business consulting. So in my role, I'm responsible for our marketing technology stack. That's inclusive of website, marketing automation, marketing analytics, customer listening, and customer research.
Thank you, Eric. It's so great to have you here today. Next up, I'd like to introduce Brian Kennett. He is the Vice President of Digital Advertising at Star Tribune.
Hello. Most of you probably don't know Star Tribune. So the Star Tribune is the 5th largest newspaper in the United States and the largest media website in the state of Minnesota. In addition to that, we run a full-service digital agency that supports the work of the news organization and supporting brands on products like paid search, programmatic displays, social, and content.
Well, Brian, it's great to have you today. And next up, I want to introduce one of our global participants, Jonas Rashady. He is the Head of Data Intelligence and Technologies at Douglas. Jonas, thank you so much for joining us all the way across the Atlantic Ocean today.
Yeah, my name is Jonas. I'm working for Douglas. We are the first address for beauty in Europe. So we have more than 2,400 local stores. We have e-commerce shops across more than 20 countries. And here I'm leading the data and technology department, which is responsible for the data collection, the analyzation of the data, and the activation across our e-com platforms and channels.
Well, I know there's a big time zone change today, so thank you so much for being a part of today's panel. But let's get started. So I want to take a moment to take a step back. At the beginning of the year, we all had our plans. We had our use cases, we had our strategies, we had the customer data initiatives all planned out. So can we take a moment to go back to Q4 2019 as we're all doing our planning? What were some of your company's original goals and strategies for 2020? Eric, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So if we go back in the Wayback Machine, we were having a record year. And as marketers, we're focused on improving our customer experience with an expansion of digital service offerings and an increased focus on using technology to have a personalized experience for all of our customers, both job seekers and hiring managers.
Great. So Jonas, what were you and your team actually focusing back? I know it feels like it was forever ago, but at the end of the year when you were doing sort of your planning and initiatives for the year.
Yeah, so the Q4 in 2019 is our first quarter. So we are starting in the Christmas season. So our focus was or is to implement a very stable and future-proof infrastructure. I think that's the most important point currently. The topics like ITP, server-to-server integration can be a big challenge if you are not optimally prepared for those kind of challenges. So our department is the foundation for the online marketing and reporting. So we should be proactively ensure that everything is going right and the cookie loss is not changing our numbers. Yeah.
Brian, what about you and your team at Star Tribune?
Yeah, well, we were coming off of a record year with 30% growth in our digital products, and really focused on, similar to others, how we make sure that the underpinnings of our data strategy and the work that we're that we're doing to bring the right products to our advertisers was strong. So we were highly focused on things like audience segmentation and better use of our first party data.
Wow, it seems like so long ago. I feel like the last couple months have dragged on, and that all that planning we did just feels like it was, 2 years ago rather than just, 6 or 7 months ago. But so let's talk a little bit about what some of the things that you did previously before all this change sort of was dropped upon us. What is something that you did before this that really you feel is paying dividends now? Jonas, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. I think the staffing was most of the critical points currently. The having Zoom meetings or team meetings, sessions to get interviews. That's totally crazy for the applications, the guys, and for us. So yeah, I think we tackled the foundation, the technical foundation, the issues early enough. So currently we could focus really on the online marketing part. We don't need to think about what is the data, where it comes from, when it has to go to. So that's the most important part currently.
Brian, what about you? Is there something that sticks out in your mind that you're like, yes, I'm so glad we did that?
Yeah, definitely the tech investments that we made, and whether it be in tools like Tealium or just other products like that our peers in our industry just hadn't focused on. So also being ahead of our plan by about 2 years in terms of digital transformation and moving our audience to digital platforms. And those end of Q4, Q1 activities have really given us a runway and a revenue runway that our peers just don't have, quite frankly. So that would probably be the biggest.
And Eric, in your business, you're such a large company and dealing with so many businesses, around the country. What were some of the things that you feel are paying off now?
Ironically, I'm going to echo Brian. So even if we're in radically different businesses, a multi-year investment in technology and digital transformation for internal and external use cases really paid off. So some examples, we quickly moved 15,000 of our internal employees from nearly 300 locations to working at home in just a matter of days without losing productivity. It was relatively seamless. And then we've taken those same investments to be able to serve business continuity. So to go to our customers who now need remote work and say, hey, we can do it any way you want. We can give you technology people who help your own efforts. Sorry for the infomercial. We'll deploy our own people with technology, or we can even allow people access to cloud-based computing resources so that you can have remote desktops that don't require downloading sensitive information. So that combo has really helped us make a big pivot from a business that I would describe as historically butts and seats to remote work.
Well, it's really interesting to hear from each of you being in such different industries what those investments look like. So each of your Tealium customers, and prior to all this change, each of your companies had made an investment in Tealium as one of those technologies to be part of your company's digital and data transformation. I saw an article, I think it was in the past couple of weeks, and the headline was something, and I apologize to the author if they're listening to this and I kill it, but it was something like, welcome to the year 2025, 4.5 years ahead of schedule. And it was an article about how all of those digital and data transformation initiatives have just been accelerated. So I'd love to hear we have customers in the audience listening today, as well as some people that are doing research. But how is Tealium for each of you playing a role, in those initiatives? Eric, do you want to start? Bounce this back to you.
Sure. So like everyone, we're working remotely and digitally today, and it's part of a pivot for a company that's had a highly localized recruiting and business development field team that's historically been a personal service business. A key fact for us, though, is that our business tracks the economy, right? When people make layoffs, they also terminate contractors. They stop permanent placement searches. So as a result, we're in the position of other firms who are trying to do more with less. And I know that Tealium's historically resisted labeling, but we see you guys as our customer data platform, and you sit in the middle of this web of first-party data and proprietary matching technology that we've developed that let us find talent and job seekers and make a great match. And I would say that if anything, we're continuing with the development path that we had previously, and it's more relevant and more accepted by our customers than ever.
Oh, that's great. Now, Jonas, can you talk a little bit about, this acceleration of data transfer initiatives with Douglas and how Tealium is playing a role there?
Yeah, I think that Europe is not so far as the US. So it's some other peers don't have a tech manager. So with Tealium, we have a flexibility to collect the right data and to transfer them to the right systems. I think the main point is to have the developers are focused on the e-com shop. They could stable the e-com shop, and we could totally be focused on the data activation. So we could use the tech manager for ourselves, push data to Google, push data to Facebook. Yeah, and so we could focus on our high standards. So we could do our own part. So I think that the home office was a challenge for all of us, but within our department, we found a good way to find a good process to push the data or to think about data. That was good.
Good.
That was really good.
Brian, what about Star Tribune and sort of those, those big data initiatives and Tealium's role there?
Sure. I mean, for us, our differentiation is really our audience and our content, and figuring out how we can help our advertisers and our consumers that read our product get the right information and data. And Tealium's the backbone for us of that work. So I think it's more critical now and escalating even faster, just because, especially on the advertising side, budgets are tighter and people have to be really focused and strategic, and having access to those insights just more critical than ever.
Now, knowing all this, knowing what your investments, your plans, kind of being where we are today, if you could go back and send yourself a message, through the time bubble, back in January, other than investing in Zoom, what would a piece of advice you'd give to yourself of kind of, how to get ready for this, or something to do from a business perspective, like to prepare for all this? Brian?
Sure. I wish we had been fully staffed. We were obviously it was a different time, but tough to find the right employees, and we were really, I think, slower than we should have been. And man, it's a lot harder to recruit and hire on Zoom than it would have been back in January.
Eric?
It's going to sound boring, but I would say button up our business processes. So make sure that make sure you have processes documented, make sure that your various partners understand the swim lanes we're each operating in, because then when you have to pivot in times of crisis, you have less friction and you're more productive. And we've had to do that on a lagging basis. So
let's talk about one thing I think it's so important for all of us right now is, we're trying to be dynamic, be agile, sort of in this time to change, but also keep our eye on the ball, keep our eye on the North Star business goals that our companies and our teams have set out. So I'd like each of you to answer this, what are your long-term goals? Maybe it's 5-10 years out, and how are you keeping those in sight while dealing with all of this change and everything that's sort of going on in the short term? Jonas?
Yeah, I think the amount of data in the online area is increasing all the time. So customer wants to get a good segmentation, good one-to-one communication, advertising, tailor-made for their own needs. So the goal should be for the next few years to ensure that these challenges are met. So for this, the technical challenges should be solved, because as Brain stated, the staffing is one of the most important part. I think there will be not enough employees to get those things done. So we need to have the technique, which could help us to find a good way.
Brian, how are you keeping your business, yourself, your team, with that eye on the North Star?
Yeah, well, not to be true altruistic, but our North Star is always that as a media organization, we believe it's media that's focused on keeping government and business accountable. So we are strongly focused on making sure that everything we do is data driven, so that we're providing the right content, the right information for our advertising partners, because they help pay for the work that we do and it's critical to the community. So I would say that we're focused on making sure that we're providing our mission statement is more of what matters to Minnesota all day, every day. And that's always what guides our work, and will continue to for the next 10 years. And it's been that for 150 years. So it's going to be for the next 10 for sure.
And Eric?
So at the core of what we do is put people to work. And so if you think of the current economy, that's probably more important than ever. And strategically, we're looking at a world in which our industry faces the same disruptive presence that retail did, right? That differentiations between brick and mortar and digital only have really collapsed. And our long-term goal is to be a place that provides a highly customized customer experience. So if you want full service in-person recruiting assistance, we give that. If you want to have a fully digital experience, we'll do that too. If you'd like some hybrid blend, we'll be able to offer that. All in the service of having hiring managers and job thinkers think we're the first place if they're thinking, I want to find talent or I want to find a better job.
No, that's great. And I'm glad that you all are, in your companies as well, that, and for ourselves at Tealium too, we're taking that moment to take a step back, reevaluate our business goals, but then also, how do we stay innovative? How do we stay agile right now, but don't lose sight on those bigger initiatives for our company? So we know that this change, or this change for now, the one that we're dealing with right now, it's not forever. And while we may be facing what is the new normal, I'd like each one of you to give one or two pieces of advice to those that are listening today. Maybe they're in your industry or not, but that will help them plan and set themselves up for success tomorrow. Eric, do you want to start?
Sure. I would start with looking at the fundamental assumptions you make about your business and customers, and determining which are still valid and which have changed. And if they've changed, how have they changed? For example, for our industry would be, we've typically assumed our customers are not open to remote workers. And I would say that our cumulative recent experience would suggest that's likely changing. And we probably will have remote work as an important part of what we do in perpetuity.
Jonas, what about you? What would be something that you would, a piece of advice or a tip or something that you'd give the audience as well?
Yeah, you should never stop learning. I think that's the most important point. The data area is increasing. The lacks of knowledge is so big. So every day there's something new. Please don't never stop that. And the second one is automate as much as possible. I think that's one of the most important points. So find good processes. They should never stop, because until the current crisis, you see if a human is not there, then there will be a big problem in the organization or in your advertising.
Brian, do you have some advice for the audience today?
Yeah, I would echo both of those. And I would just say, don't get comfortable. It seems like so much has changed, especially in the last couple of years, the last couple of months. But I don't think we can make any assumptions that those changes are going to cease or that they're going to even slow down. So just don't get comfortable and be okay with being uncomfortable.
Well, and Jonas, you mentioned something about, continuing to learn. I think that we're learning a lot right now, but is there anything that you guys have learned about your customers or even your teams that has kind of surprised you that's been a pleasant surprise that is, kind of come out of all this? Brian?
Yeah, I absolutely. If somebody would have asked me 6 months ago if our team could continue, especially on the sales side of our business, continue productivity remotely without all the tools that we normally give them, I would have said not a chance. And our activity is up, our win rates are up. They're just, they've blown me away with how adaptable they are and how they stepped up to the challenge and took it on.
Eric, what about you? Anything that's kind of pleasantly been a surprise?
Our whole team's ability to react to adversity. So if I just stick with marketing or marketing technology, dispersing our entire team to their homes around the world and having people be able to still come together and pivot and release crisis communications, address new business opportunities, update the website on a dime, create new marketing automation journeys. I was really pleasantly surprised. I'm really proud of everybody who contributed.
And Jonas, what about you and Douglas? Is there something that you or the company has learned that's been just like, wow, I'm pleasantly surprised and really impressed?
Yeah, my team or my department works much more than usual. They are totally motivated. Nobody said, okay, it will stop, or they have negative thoughts. It was always, okay, we push harder. We found a solution for that. There were night sessions. Nobody say that will be a big effort or something like that. It was crazy. So I learned, and if you love what you do, you love to work, it's your passion, and then it's fascinating. The results are fascinating.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. I've been so proud of our team as well. I think for a lot of us in this industry, there's been more agility needed, more hours, more energy, and everyone's just so risen to the occasion. It's been, it's definitely, not that I didn't know that before, but definitely just seeing the evidence of it now, it's been a nice, a good surprise. So next question is, and I think this is a great opportunity for each of you, but the theme of this year's Digital Virtuosity is to be data-lutionary. And I'd really love it if each one of you could take a moment to maybe recognize someone on your team and your organization that is data-lutionary to you. I think it's a nice moment to give someone a little bit of a shout out that may not be expecting it. Brian, do you want to start?
Sure. For me, it's we're in a tough industry, and our owner, Glenn Taylor, who, Glenn's not a digital guy by background and training, but he's been the calm, steady hand and continued to say invest in what matters to our clients and to our business long term, and really been focused on letting the long-term numbers and the long-term picture drive the business, and that's hard to do when times are tough. So I would say very much, I'm proud of our ownership. It's been great.
That's really cool. Eric, what about you? Who's your data-lutionary hero within Robert Half?
Sure. For me, my hero is clearly Regan Sweeney. He's the leader of my marketing analytics team, and he's working currently and consistently with partners including Tealium and Evoca and others to make sure that our team keeps generating a better holistic understanding of our customers. And he's working to make sure that that data is actionable and connected to the rest of our MarTech system, especially our owned and earned digital marketing pieces.
Oh, I've met Regan as well, and I think he is fantastic. So I love that you selected him. And Jonas, someone you'd like to recognize as well for being that data-lutionary person in your organization?
Yeah, I think that's hard. As I already said, everyone is doing a great job. So if you find or want to shout out one, that's not fair. I think my team leads is doing a great job. They're helping me a lot, so I could focus on the strategy. So shout out to them.
Oh, that's great. Well, we have time for just one more question, and this is, agility and innovation is our business. As marketing and data professionals, we're always looking at ways to innovate. And sometimes there can be some certain levels of risk, with innovation. And in times of change, risk can be something that we're less likely as, an organization to be okay with. How are you balancing, taking risk that kind of comes with innovation, during a time of change? Brian, would you be able to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny to me because I think everything in the industry that I'm in is a risk right now. But I do think that I would go back to what I said before. It's, being smart and looking at making sure that we're thinking about what's really going to be valuable for our consumers and our advertisers, but also not being afraid to do what the data says. If it's the right thing to do and that's clear, then take the risk. And I think that's what we're doing. And I would say that's kind of our focus and who we are. That's core to our DNA. So that's how I think about that.
No, that's great. Eric, do you have a sort of a philosophy or approach that you're sort of putting into place right now with that balance of innovation and risk and kind of pushing forward?
I take it back to the North Star of where do we want to be in 5 to 10 years. I lead our research function too, and we've got a body of research that tells us our customers want more personalized experiences and more digital options. And so we're doing everything we can to accelerate that development roadmap.
And Jonas, what about you? I'd like to hear your perspective as well, just being in a different region, but also just a different line of business too. How are you balancing, that need to innovate in a time of change with, just to watching the level of risk?
Yeah, I think make the decision based on data, so you could calculate the risk. That's one of my most important feelings or thoughts, is saying, okay, if I could have a foundation based on data, or the decision based on data, if you fail, it's all fine, because you could prove it that the data shows that it could be the right way, or should be the right way.
Well, guys, thank you so much. Jonas, Eric, Brian, I really appreciate your time. I want to recognize each of you as some of my data-lutionary heroes. What you are doing in each of your businesses is amazing. We want to thank you for your partnership as well, but also your time today and spending a little bit of time with our audience. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.